In the ancient realm of Lyra, where the twin moons, one silver, one gold, cast their ethereal glow upon a world riven by ancient hatreds, the forest of Eldoria stood as a bastion of untamed mystery. Its towering oaks, their bark gnarled like the faces of forgotten gods, wove a canopy so dense that even the moon's radiant beams struggled to penetrate, leaving the forest floor cloaked in a perpetual twilight of shifting shadows. The air was heavy with the scent of damp moss, decaying leaves, and an undercurrent of primal secrets, as if the earth itself whispered tales of Lyra's divided soul. Here, the Vael, luminous beings of celestial grace, akin to humans, yet imbued with the magic of starlight, dwelt in crystalline spires amid the verdant valleys of Silverwood, their lives a symphony of elegance and arcane mastery. In stark contrast, the Lycans, fierce shapeshifters, bound to the wild fury of the beast, roamed the untamed wilds, their loyalty to pack and instinct a sacred creed. Between these peoples burned an enmity as old as the moons, forged in blood-soaked battles and misunderstandings that had hardened into legend. It was in the heart of Eldoria, far from the gleaming halls of Silverwood, that our tale begins with Anya, a young Vael woman of 20 summers, her fate irrevocably altered by a hidden curse. Anya was a vision of her people's ethereal beauty. Her hair, a cascade of midnight silk, flowed in waves that shimmered with the moon's reflected light, each strand catching the glow like a thread of liquid starlight. Her eyes, the color of storm-tossed seas, held a restless depth, their gray-green hues swirling with unspoken burdens and quiet defiance. She had fled her kin under the veil of night, driven by whispered truths that had haunted her since childhood, a forbidden bloodline concealed for generations, now stirring within her like a beast, clawing at the bars of its cage. The Vael revered purity, their celestial heritage a sacred trust. To harbor a taint such as hers was to invite exile, or worse, execution. Thus Anya ran, her heart pounding with a volatile mix of fear, shame, and a burgeoning resolve to face her destiny alone. The night was oppressively still as she stumbled through the Eldoria's undergrowth, her delicate robes, woven from Silverwood's finest silks, pale as moonlight, snagging on thorns that tore at the fabric like eager claws. Her breath came in shallow, frantic gasps, each one a battle against the rising panic that threatened to consume her. The twin moons hung low, their silver and gold light mingling to cast airy, dappled patterns across the forest floor, as if the heavens themselves mocked her plight with their serene indifference. She had chosen Eldoria for its isolation, a place where no Vael would tread, where the whispers of her cursed lineage could be buried beneath layers of earth and shadow. But as she pressed deeper, the forest seemed to close in, its ancient trees looming like sentinels of judgment, their branches creaking with a cadence that echoed her racing pulse. Suddenly, a searing pain lanced through her core, sharp and unrelenting, as if a blade of molten fire had been plunged into her spine. Anya stumbled, collapsing to her knees upon a bed of damp leaves and twisting roots, a raw cry tearing from her throat, desperate, piercing, yet swallowed by the forest's indifferent silence. The curse, long dormant, had awakened with merciless fury, heralding her first transformation. The agony was immediate and all-consuming, a violation of body and soul that shattered the boundaries of her existence. Her bones cracked with a sound like thunder breaking within her, each snap a violent crescendo that radiated from her spine outward, vertebrae grinding and twisting as if reshaped by an unseen sculptor's brutal hands. Her ribs expanded with excruciating force, splintering and reforming in relentless wave that stole her breath, her chest heaving as though crushed beneath an invisible weight. Her skin, once luminous and smooth as the Vael starlit heritage, stretched taut over muscles that writhed and swelled, tearing in minute fissures that stung like 1,000 needle pricks. Coarse silver fur erupted from these rifts, piercing her flesh like shards of ice, each strand glistening with an unnatural sheen under the moonlight. The sensation was a torment of fire and ice entwined, a burning that seared her nerves raw, a cold that numbed her extremities until she could scarcely feel her own limbs. Her hands, once deft in weaving arcane sigils, contorted into paws, fingers curling inward as claws burst forth from her fingertips in bursts of searing pain, blood welling briefly before the transformation sealed the wounds with preternatural speed. Her face elongated, her jaw popping and stretching as fangs pushed through her gums, sharp and alien, scraping against her tongue in a grotesque parody of speech. Her vision blurred with tears, the world tilting through a haze of agony as her senses sharpened to an unbearable intensity. The rustle of leaves became a deafening cacophony. The scent of earth and decay assaulted her nose like a physical blow, and the distant howl of some nocturnal creature pierced her ears like a blade. Her heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat against the cage of her newly formed ribs, as her mind reeled in a maelstrom of terror and disbelief. She was a Vael, a creature of celestial purity, yet here she was, birthing a monster, a werewolf, an abomination in the eyes of her kin, a betrayal of everything the Vael held sacred. Memories of her mother's whispered warnings flooded her mind, fragments of a truth she had dismissed as myth. "You carry the blood of both worlds," her mother had said, her voice trembling with sorrow in the dim glow of their Silverwood home years before her untimely death. "Conceal it, Anya, or it will destroy you." Anya had clung to denial, believing the tales were mere bedtime stories to frighten children into obedience. But now, as her body reshaped itself under the merciless gaze of Lyra's twin moons, the truth clawed its way to the surface, undeniable and terrifying. Her mother's blood, tainted by a long-forgotten union with a Lycanian ancestor, had passed to her, a legacy of division that now tore her apart from within. The transformation reached its climax, her body trembling with residual spasms as the silver-furred wolf fully emerged. She collapsed fully to the ground, her new form a paradox of strength and fragility, her fur glistening with sweat and moonlight, matted with leaves and dirt. Her breath came in ragged pants, each exhale a low whimper that betrayed her lingering pain. The forest, vast and indifferent, offered no solace, its shadows deepening her isolation as they danced in the moon's eerie glow. She curled into herself, her massive paws tucking beneath her, her tail, a strange foreign appendage, twitching involuntarily. The weight of her new reality pressed down like a physical force. She was alone, utterly alone in the heart of Eldoria, a cursed Vael in a world that would revile her. Fear was her constant companion now, a specter that whispered of her kin's judgment. The Vael High Council, with their unyielding doctrines and arcane might, would brand her a traitor, a blight to be purged from their pure lineage. She could envision their faces,
Elders she had once revered, peers who had shared their laughter, twisting in disgust, their eyes cold with condemnation. Her life in Silverwood, with its crystalline spires and harmonious chants, felt like a dream severed by the beast now coursing through her veins. Yet beneath the terror, a flicker of defiance sparked, faint but unyielding. Why should she be condemned for a legacy she did not choose? Why should her blood define her worth when her heart still yearned for the light of her people? The twin moons watched in solemn silence, their silver and gold light bathing her in a strange duality of torment and solace, as if bearing witness to the birth of something greater than mere tragedy. Anya's whimper softened, her body adjusting to its lupine form, though her mind remained a battlefield of fear and uncertainty. The forest sounds, crickets' chirps, the distant rustle of some unseen creature, became a chorus of indifference, underscoring her solitude. She rose unsteadily on her new legs, their strength unfamiliar, her claws sinking into the earth as if anchoring her to this new reality. Her storm-tossed eyes scanned the shadows, searching for a path forward, though she knew not where it led. Unbeknownst to her, fate was already weaving its intricate threads, drawing another soul toward her, a soul whose presence would challenge her isolation and reshape the destiny of Lyra itself. In the distance, a faint rustle stirred the undergrowth, too deliberate to be the wind, too subtle to be a mindless beast. Anya's ears pricked, her new senses alerting her to an approaching presence, though she could not yet fathom its significance. For now, she was alone, a silver-furred outcast under the watchful gaze of Lyra's moons. Her heart a crucible where fear and courage clashed, forging the first sparks of a journey that would echo across the ages.
In the shadowed expanse of Lyra's Eldoria, where the twin moons, one silver, one gold, cast their ethereal light through a dense canopy of ancient oaks, the air thrummed with an undercurrent of tension, as if the forest itself held its breath. The night, still young, was alive with the subtle sounds of nocturnal life, crickets weaving their ceaseless chorus, the distant hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Yet beneath this natural symphony lay a deeper pulse, a primal energy that resonated with the wild heart of the land. Eldoria, vast and untamed, was a realm where secrets lingered in every shadow, and on this fateful night, two destinies were poised to collide under the moon's unyielding gaze. Anya, newly transformed into her silver-furred wolf form, crouched low among the ferns, her body still trembling from the excruciating pain of her first shift. The agony lingered like an echo in her bones, each movement a reminder of the curse that had reshaped her, a Vael woman now cloaked in the guise of a beast, her midnight silk hair replaced by a shimmering pelt that caught the moonlight like a mirror of stars. Her eyes, still the storm-tossed gray-green of her human form, darted through the undergrowth, wide with terror and disorientation. The forest, once merely a refuge for her flight from Silverwood, now felt like a labyrinth of peril, its shadows deepening her isolation. Her heightened senses assaulted her. The scent of damp earth and pine was overwhelming, the rustle of leaves a deafening roar, and her own heartbeat thundered in her ears like a war drum. She was a stranger in her own body, a Vael cursed with Lycan blood, alone and vulnerable in a world that would condemn her for what she had become. Across the glade, moving with the silent grace of a predator, came Ronan, the formidable leader of the Silverfang Pack.
A pure-blooded Lycan of unmatched prowess, Ronan was a figure of legend among his kin, his name whispered in tales of valor and ferocity. Tall and broad-shouldered, his human form bore the scars of countless battles, jagged lines crisscrossing his arms and chest, each a testament to his role as guardian of his people. His eyes, a piercing amber that glowed faintly in the dark, scanned the forest with a warrior's vigilance, attuned to every shift in the wind. On this night, he prowled the borders of Eldoria in his wolf form, a towering silhouette of midnight black fur, rippling with sinew and power, his movements fluid yet deliberate, each step a calculated dance of strength and stealth. As leader, his duty was clear, to protect Lycan lands from intruders, particularly the Vael, whose celestial magic and haughty purity had long been branded as threats to the natural order.
The air grew thick with an unspoken tension as Ronan's keen senses caught a disturbance, a scent unfamiliar yet intoxicating, a blend of vile elegance and something wilder, tinged with the metallic tang of pain and fear. His ears pricked, catching the faint whimper of a creature in distress, and his nose twitched, following the trail to a clearing where the moonlight pooled like liquid silver. There, amidst the ferns, he beheld her, a silver-furred wolf, her form quivering in the aftermath of a violent transformation. Her pelt shimmered like a cascade of starlight, her body compact yet powerful, but it was her eyes that arrested him, those storm-tossed orbs brimming with intelligence and terror, a depth that spoke of more than mere beast. This was no ordinary wolf, no rogue Lycan trespassing on his territory. There was something profoundly different about her, a mystery that stirred his blood in ways he could not yet name. Ronan circled warily, his massive form a shadow against the moonlight, his hackles raised, and a low growl rumbling from his throat like distant thunder. His instincts screamed of danger, an intruder, perhaps a spy, a threat to the pack's sanctity. The ancient codes of his people demanded swift action to drive out or destroy any who encroached upon their lands, especially one bearing the faint, unmistakable aura of vile magic. Yet as he bared his fangs, prepared to lunge, something stayed his paw. The silver wolf cowered before him, her body pressed low to the ground, tail tucked, ears flattened in abject fear. Her eyes locked onto his, pleading silently, and within their depths he glimpsed a soul caught in turmoil, a creature not born to this form, but thrust into it by forces beyond her control. The recognition was visceral, a pull of the blood that whispered of kinship amid difference, a connection that defied the hatreds etched into his upbringing. Anya, her heart pounding like a caged bird, saw only death in the towering black wolf before her. His amber eyes burned with the fierce intensity, his massive frame radiating power that dwarfed her own. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but her limbs, still unsteady from the transformation, refused to obey. The memory of her shift, the bone-cracking agony, the skin-stretching torment lingered like a fresh wound, sapping her strength. She was no warrior, no creature of the wild. She was a Vael, meant for crystalline halls and arcane rituals, now trapped in a body that felt alien and wrong. The black wolf's growl sent shivers through her, each vibration a reminder of her vulnerability. She expected claws to tear, fangs to rend, yet he did not strike. Instead, he paused, his head tilting slightly, those amber eyes narrowing with a reluctant curiosity that baffled her as much as it terrified her. The clearing became a stage for their silent standoff, the twin moons casting their dual light upon the scene, silver and gold intertwining like the threads of fate itself. Ronan's growl softened, replaced by a low, inquisitive huff, his massive form easing its aggressive stance.
He took a cautious step forward, his nose twitching as he inhaled her scent more deeply. Vael, yes, but laced with the wild essence of Lycan blood, a paradox that intrigued and unsettled him. His mind turned with conflict. Duty demanded he expel this intruder, yet something deeper, an instinct older than the codes, perhaps as ancient as Lyra itself, urged restraint. He had seen first shifts before, the raw pain of a young Lycan learning their form, but this was different. The Silver Wolf's fear was not that of a fledgling back member, but of one who had never known the beast within, one who bore the weight of a forbidden heritage. Anya, her body trembling under the weight of his gaze, fought to steady her breathing. Her new senses picked up nuances she could scarcely process. The musk of her fur, rich with earth and pine, the steady rhythm of his breath, a counterpoint to her own frantic gasps, the faint warmth radiating from his massive form, a stark contrast to the cold dread gripping her heart. She wanted to speak, to explain, but her lupine throat could form no words, only a low whine that conveyed her desperation. The black wolf, Ronan, though she knew not his name, circled closer, his movements deliberate, his eyes never leaving hers. Each step was a test, a question, as if he sought to unravel the enigma of her existence without bloodshed. In that suspended moment, the forest seemed to hold its breath, the crickets falling silent, the wind stilling as if Lyra itself watched their encounter. Ronan stopped, his massive head lowering until his muzzle was mere inches from hers, his amber eyes searching her own. The growl was gone, replaced by a soft chuff, a sound that carried neither threat nor welcome, but a tentative acknowledgement. Anya's terror surged, yet she held her ground, driven by a spark of defiance that refused to let her cower entirely. She was no prey, not entirely, not when the same moons that had cursed her now bathed her in their light, as if urging her to stand tall. Ronan's instincts warred within him, duty against curiosity, prejudice against an inexplicable pull. He had been taught to despise the Vael, to see their magic as a corruption of the natural order, but this creature before him was neither wholly Vael nor Lycan, but a bridge between worlds he had never imagined. His tail flicked, a sign of indecision, and he took a step back, breaking the circle, his posture softening further. He would not attack, not yet. Something in her eyes, in the raw vulnerability of her form, spoke to a part of him he had long buried, a part that yearned for connection beyond the rigid boundaries of pack and kin.
Anya, sensing the shift in his demeanor, dared to raise her head slightly, her ears twitching upward. The absence of an immediate attack was a fragile reprieve, but it did little to quell the terror that pulsed through her veins. She was a lone wolf in a world that reviled her kind, facing a predator whose strength could crush her with ease. Yet, in his hesitation, she glimpsed a possibility, a sliver of hope that she might survive this night, if only she could navigate the unspoken questions in his gaze. Under the canopy of Eldoria, bathed in the tween moon's light, two worlds brushed against each other, fraught with peril and possibility. The moment hung like a delicate thread, poised to snap or strengthen, as Ronan and Anya stood on the precipice of an encounter that would alter the course of their lives and the fate of Lyra itself. Neither could yet fathom the depth of their connection, but in that charged silence, the seeds of an unlikely alliance were sown, rooted in reluctant curiosity and pure, unadulterated terror. In the veiled heart of Eldoria, where the twin moons of Lyra wove their silver and gold light through the tangled boughs, the forest exhaled a cautious stillness, as if acknowledging the fragile bond forming between two souls from warring worlds. The air, heavy with the scent of pine and earth, carried a faint undercurrent of smoke,
hinting at distant fires that burned beyond the trees. Anya, still trembling in her silver-furred wolf form, followed the towering black wolf, Ronan, though she knew not his name, through the labyrinthine paths of the forest. Her body, newly forged in the crucible of her first transformation, ached with every step, her claws sinking into the damp earth as she struggled to match his purposeful stride. The terror of their encounter lingered, her storm-tossed eyes darting to the shadows, expecting betrayal or attack. Yet the Lycan leader's demeanor held no immediate threat. His amber gaze, though stern, conveyed a silent command: follow or perish alone in the wilderness. Ronan, his massive form moving with the fluid grace of a predator born to these wilds, led her deeper into Eldoria, his senses attuned to every rustle and scent. The weight of his decision pressed upon him like a storm cloud. He, the Silverfang Pack's unyielding guardian, had spared an intruder whose very existence challenged the ancient codes of his people. The silver wolf's scent, a paradox of Vael elegance and Lycan wildness, stirred an unease in his soul, yet her vulnerability, the raw, untested nature of her shift, evoked a kinship he could not ignore. Duty demanded he cast her out, but instinct, older and deeper, urged him to protect. With a low huff, he nudged her gently with his muzzle, urging her to keep pace, his eyes conveying a resolve tempered by reluctant compassion. Their journey through the forest was a silent pact, each step a thread weaving their fates together. The terrain grew rugged, roots twisting like ancient serpents beneath their paws, while vines draped like curtains, glowing faintly with luminescent blooms that pulsed in rhythm with the moon's light. Anya's heightened senses, still overwhelming in their intensity, painted the world in vivid detail: the sharp tang of sap, the distant cry of a night bird, the warmth radiating from Ronan's form as he brushed past brambles to clear her path. Her fear, though ever present, began to fray at the edges, replaced by a cautious curiosity about the black wolf who had chosen mercy over violence. She noted his strength, the way his muscles rippled beneath his midnight fur, the scars visible even in this form, and the quiet authority that seemed to command the forest itself.
After what felt an eternity, the trees parted to reveal a secluded glen, hidden from the world by illusions of mist and shadow. Here lay the camp of the Silverfang Pack, a sprawling settlement nestled within a natural amphitheater of towering pines and granite cliffs. Bonfires flickered like defiant stars, their flames casting dancing shadows across tents of hide and bone, while the air thrummed with the low hum of Lycan life. Anya's eyes widened as she took in the scene, her wolf form shrinking slightly under the weight of curious stares from the pack. Warriors, their bodies scarred and sinewy, sparred with feral intensity, their shifts seamless as they flowed between human and wolf forms, claws clashing in a dance of controlled savagery. Elders tended to young pups, their rough hands gentle as they taught them to track scents or weave baskets from reeds, a tenderness that belied the camp's brutal exterior. The pack moved as one, sharing spoils from hunts in rituals marked by blood and song, their howls rising in a chorus of unity that echoed through the glen, resonating with a primal harmony Anya had never known among the Vael. Ronan led her to a secluded den carved into the base of a cliff, its entrance veiled by hanging moss. Inside, the air was cool and earthen, the walls adorned with crude carvings of wolves and moons, illuminated by a single glowing crystal embedded in the ceiling. He shifted back to his human form, revealing the man beneath the beast, tall, broad-shouldered, his scarred frame radiating quiet strength. His amber eyes, now softened by the dim light, studied her with an intensity that made her fur bristle. "Rest here," he said, his voice a low rumble, like stones shifting in a riverbed. You are safe, for now." The words were not a promise, but a temporary reprieve, yet they carried a weight that steadied her racing heart. Anya, still in her wolf form, curled into a corner of the den, her silver fur blending with the shadows. The transformation had left her exhausted, her body aching as if every bone had been remolded by fire. She watched Ronan warily, noting the way he moved, deliberate, controlled, yet with a grace that spoke of years honing his instincts. He tossed a pelt toward her, a gesture of practical kindness, and sat near the entrance, his gaze alternating between her and the camp beyond. The silence between them was heavy, but not hostile, a space where trust began to root, fragile as a seedling in rocky soil. Over the next days, Anya observed the Lycan society from the den's shadows, her fear slowly giving way to fascination. The pack's brutality was undeniable. Sparring matches ended in blood, disputes settled with bared fangs, and the air often carried the scent of fresh kills. Yet woven into this savagery was a profound sense of family. She saw mothers nursing pups, their fierce eyes softening with love, warriors sharing tales around the fires, their laughter deep and unguarded. Elders weaving stories of ancient hunts, their voices rich with pride and sorrow. The pack's unity was a living thing, a bond forged in shared survival, starkly different from the Vael's rigid hierarchies and crystalline detachment. Anya, who had known only the polished elegance of Silverwood, felt a strange pull toward this raw, earthy kinship, even as it intimidated her.
Ronan became her anchor in this alien world. He brought her food, raw meat at first, which she struggled to stomach, then cooked portions when he noticed her hesitation. He taught her through gestures and sparse words, showing her how to move silently in her wolf form, how to scent the air for danger, how to harness the strength of her new body without losing herself to its instincts. Each lesson was a bridge, narrowing the chasm between their worlds. Anya, though silent in her lupine form, absorbed his teachings with a desperate hunger, her fear of the beast within tempered by his steady presence. She began to anticipate his movements, to sense when his gaze lingered not with suspicion, but with a curiosity that mirrored her own. One evening, as the twin moons rose in tandem, casting their dual light across the glen, Roland led her on a hunt, a rite of passage among Lycans. They moved through the forest as a pair, his black form as shadow against her silver, their steps synchronized in a silent dance. The prey, a swift deer, darted through the undergrowth, its heart pounding like a drumbeat in Anya's ears. Ronan signaled with a flick of his tail, guiding her to flank the creature, and together they brought it down, not with savagery, but with precision, his strength complementing her agility. As they shared the kill, their muzzles stained with blood, Anya felt a surge of connection, not just to the act, but to him. His amber eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw not a predator, but a protector, a soul who saw her not as an abomination, but as a being worthy of sanctuary. No words passed between them, for her wolf form allowed none, yet a silent trust grew, woven from shared glances, shared struggles, and the unspoken understanding of her turmoil. Ronan recognized the raw pain of her first shift, the disorientation of a body no longer her own. And in his actions, guarding the den, sharing his knowledge, shielding her from the pack's harsher elements, he offered a refuge she had never known. Anya, in turn, began to see beyond his warrior's facade, glimpsing a man bound by duty, yet yearning for something more, a connection that defied the hatreds of their peoples. In the quiet of the den, under the glow of the crystal, their bond deepened, a fragile alliance forged in the crucible of Eldora's wilds. The camp's fires burned bright outside, their light a stark contrast to the shadows within, yet it was in those shadows that Anya and Ronan found the first threads of trust, tentative, unspoken, but strong enough to withstand the storms yet to come. The twin moons watched, their light a silent blessing upon a union that would challenge the very foundations of Lyra's divided world.
In the veiled sanctuary of the Silverfang Pack's camp, nestled deep within the glen of Eldoria, where the twin moons of Lyra cast their silver and gold light through the canopy, the air thrummed with a quiet intensity, as if the forest itself sensed the pivotal moment unfolding. The bonfires of the Lycan camp flickered like restless spirits, their glow painting the hide tents and granite cliffs in hues of amber and shadow. The pack moved about their nightly rituals, warriors sharpening claws, elders weaving tales of ancient hunts, pups scampering underfoot. Yet within the secluded den where Anya found refuge, a profound transformation loomed, one that would shatter the fragile equilibrium of her alliance with Ronan. Anya, still cloaked in her silver-furred wolf form, lay curled in the den's cool shadows, her body a paradox of newfound strength and lingering exhaustion. The crystal embedded in the ceiling pulsed faintly, casting a soft, ethereal glow that danced across her shimmering pelt, highlighting the contours of a form both majestic and alien to her. Her storm-tossed eyes, gray-green and luminous, flickered with a mix of wariness and growing trust as she watched Ronan, who stood guard near the entrance. Days had passed since their chance encounter, each one weaving a silent bond through shared hunts, guarded glances, and his quiet acts of protection. Yet the curse within her blood, a forbidden Vael Lycan lineage, remained a volatile force, its power tied to the moons waxing and waning. Tonight, as the twin moons aligned in a rare harmony, their combined light streaming through the den's mossy veil, Anya felt the stirrings of reversal, a pull that heralded the return to her human form. The transformation began without warning, a sudden convulsion that seized her like a tempest. She yelped a sharp lupine cry that echoed in the confined space, her body arching as the agony of her first shift reversed itself. Bones cracked and compressed, the sound a sickening cacophony of snaps and grinds as her spine realigned with brutal precision, vertebrae shifting back to their veil configuration. Her ribs contracted, squeezing her lungs until each breath was a labored gasp, the pain as excruciating as the initial shift, though now laced with familiarity that made it no less torturous. Her silver fur receded like mist before dawn, each strand withdrawing into her skin with a prickling sting, leaving behind flesh that glowed with the luminous sheen of her celestial heritage. Claws retracted into fingers, fangs sank back into gums, and her muzzle shortened, reshaping into the delicate features of her human face. Tears streamed from her eyes, blurring the world as her senses dulled to their veil limits, the forest's vivid tapestry fading to muted tones. When the transformation subsided, Anya lay panting on the pelt Ronan had provided, her body trembling, her midnight silk hair splayed across the earthen floor like a dark halo. Her robes, tattered from her flight through Eldoria, clung to her sweat-dampened skin, revealing the graceful curves of a Vael woman. Ethereal, luminous, yet marked by the ordeal of her curse. She curled inward, clutching her knees, her storm-tossed eyes wide with vulnerability and fear of what this reversion meant. She was no longer the silver wolf Ronan had protected. She was Anya, a Vael, the very embodiment of the enemy his people had been taught to despise. Ronan, alerted by her cry, entered the den at that moment, his own form shifting seamlessly from wolf to man. The transition was fluid, a testament to his mastery, revealing the warrior beneath. Tall, broad-shouldered, his scarred frame radiating strength, his amber eyes sharp with vigilance. The sight of Anya stopped him cold, his breath catching as if struck by an unseen blow. Before him stood the epitome of Vael beauty,
skin like polished moonstone, hair flowing like a river of night, eyes that held the depth of a storm yet sparkled with celestial light. Yet it was her scent, now fully Vael, yet laced with the wild essence of her wolf form, that confirmed the impossible truth. This was the silver wolf, the creature he had sworn to protect, now revealed as the enemy he had been raised to hate. Shock coursed through him, his warrior's composure fracturing, as his mind grappled with the revelation. The Vael were deceivers, manipulators of starlight who scorned the Lycans' primal bond with the earth. Or so the elders had taught. Yet here was Anya, her vulnerability as palpable as the pain etched across her features, her eyes pleading for understanding rather than condemnation. Duty clashed with instinct, the weight of his pack's teachings pressing against the pull of his heart. He had felt her fear in the forest, shared her struggles in the hunt, guarded her against his own kin's suspicions. Now, seeing her as a Vael, a forbidden desire ignited, a flame that burned through the prejudices of his upbringing, kindling an attraction as undeniable as it was perilous. Anya, sensing the shift in his gaze, recoiled slightly, her body tensing as if expecting rejection or worse. The den's confines felt suddenly suffocating, the crystal's light casting their shadows in stark relief, amplifying the tension that crackled between them. She saw the conflict in his eyes, amber orbs that flickered with shock, duty, and something deeper, something that made her heart race with a mix of fear and longing. "I am still me," she whispered, her voice trembling, lyrical with the cadence of silver wood, yet raw with vulnerability. "The wolf, the curse, it is part of me, but I am Vael. Will you cast me out now?" The question hung like a blade, poised to sever the fragile trust they had built. Ronan's jaw tightened, his hands clenching at his sides as he wrestled with the storm within. Every instinct screamed to uphold his duty, to report her to the pack, to banish the Vael intruder who threatened their way of life. Yet the memory of her silver form, trembling yet fierce in their hunt, anchored him. He had seen her courage, felt her pain, and in that moment he could not reconcile the enemy of legend with the woman before him. Stepping closer, his presence filling the den, he knelt beside her, his amber eyes searching hers for answers he could not voice. "You are no enemy," he said at last, his voice a low growl softened with conviction. "You are the wolf I swore to protect. Vael or not, that oath holds."
The air thickened with unspoken truths, charged with a current that neither could ignore. Anya's fear ebbed slightly, her trembling easing as his words sank in. His proximity, the warmth of his scarred hand hovering near hers, sent a shiver through her, not of cold, but of a connection that transcended their divided bloodlines. She saw in him not just the fierce Lycan leader, but a man torn between duty and desire, his strength a shield that now extended to her. The forbidden nature of their bond crystallized in that moment, a romance as dangerous as it was inevitable, rooted in the shared trials of Eldoria's wilds. Ronan rose, offering her his hand, a gesture both practical and symbolic. She took it, her fingers trembling against his calloused palm. The touch ignited a spark that pulsed through them both. The den, bathed in the crystal's glow, became a crucible where their alliance solidified, no longer just a matter of survival, but a defiance of the hatreds that divided their peoples. Outside, the pack's howls rose, a reminder of the world that awaited. Yet within these walls, under the twin moon's watchful light, Anya and Ronan stood on the precipice of something greater, a forbidden love, fraught with fear and attraction, that would challenge the very foundations of Lyra. In the wild heart of Lyra, where the twin moons cast their silver and gold light upon the untamed expanse of Eldoria, a storm brewed, not of wind or rain, but of ancient hatreds and unyielding traditions that threatened to tear asunder the fragile bond between Anya and Ronan. The forest, once a sanctuary for their unlikely alliance, now pulsed with the menace of pursuit, its shadows alive with the whispers of trackers and hunters closing in. The air was thick with the scent of pine, earth, and the faint tang of fear, as if the land itself sensed the escalating conflict that would test the resolve of two souls bound by forbidden love. The bonfires of the Silverfang Pack's camp still flickered in the distance, their light a fading memory as Anya and Ronan fled deeper into the wilderness, their steps driven by desperation and a shared defiance against the worlds that sought to tear them apart. Anya, now reverted to her Vael form, moved with a grace tempered by exhaustion, her midnight silk hair tangled with leaves and thorns, her storm-tossed eyes shadowed with fatigue, yet burning with a newfound resolve. The revelation of her true nature had shattered the illusion of safety within the Lycan camp, and the weight of her cursed bloodline, a union of Vael and Lycan ancestry, pressed upon her like a mantle of iron. Each step was a rebellion against the fear that had once defined her, her heart now a crucible where courage was forged from the ashes of isolation. Her tattered robes, once a symbol of Silverwood's elegance, clung to her sweat-dampened skin, their pale fabric stained with the earth of Eldoria. Yet, despite the physical toll, she felt the stirrings of purpose, a conviction that her curse was not a mark of shame, but a bridge to a future unimagined. Ronan, the formidable Lycan leader, strode by her, his scarred frame radiating a warrior's strength, even as his amber eyes betrayed a storm of inner conflict. His midnight black hair, tied back in a warrior's braid, glistened with sweat, and his broad shoulders bore the weight of their flight, both literal and metaphorical. Duty had been his lodestar, a creed etched into his bones by years of leading the Silverfang Pack, enforcing codes that branded the Vael as deceivers and threats to the natural order. Yet Anya's presence, her vulnerability, her courage, the undeniable pull of her divided bloodline had fractured that duty, revealing a path where love and loyalty could coexist. He scanned the forest with a predator's vigilance, his senses attuned to every snap of twig or rustle of leaves, his hand never straying far from the obsidian dagger at his belt. Each glance at Anya, her luminous form a stark contrast to the wilds, deepened the forbidden attraction that burned within him, a flame that threatened to consume the rigid boundaries of his upbringing. Their flight was a desperate dance through Eldoria's labyrinth, the terrain a relentless adversary. Jagged ravines cut through the earth, their depths echoing with the roar of subterranean rivers that churned like the anger of Lyra's primal spirits. Thorny brambles clawed at their limbs, drawing beads of blood that mingled with the dirt, while ancient trees loomed like sentinels, their branches creaking with a cadence that seemed to mock their plight. Anya, her Vael senses attuned to the subtle magics of the land, wove fleeting illusions from the forest mists, her hands glowing faintly as she bent light and shadow to obscure their trail. Ronan, his Lycan instincts sharp as a blade, scented the air for pursuers, his form partially shifting, claws extended, ears pricked, to navigate hidden paths veiled by undergrowth. Their collaboration was seamless, a testament to the trust forged in the camp, yet the weight of their pursuers pressed ever closer, a noose tightening around their fragile alliance.
Word of their bond had spread like wildfire across Lyra, igniting fury in the crystalline hulls of Silverwood and the rugged glens of the Lycan packs. In Silverwood, the Vael High Council convened in their grand chamber, its spires humming with arcane energy, their faces etched with righteous indignation. Anya, once a daughter of their celestial lineage, was now branded a traitor, her cursed bloodline a blight upon their purity. The High Archon, a severe figure cloaked in robes of starlit silver, slammed a gavel of crystal upon the dais, his voice resonating like a tolling bell. Anya of Silverwood has consorted with beasts, defiling our sacred heritage, he declared, his eyes cold as the void. Her blood, tainted by the savage, must be purged. Trackers, bring her to judgment. Arcane wards flared to life, their shimmering nets dispatched with Vael hunters, lithe figures armed with staves of light, their movements graceful yet lethal, fanning out into Eldoria with relentless precision. In the Lycan camps, the reaction was no less vehement. Alpha Thorn, Ronan's father, stood before the assembled Silverfang Pack, his grizzled form towering beneath the open sky, his eyes blazing with ancestral wrath. A warrior of unyielding tradition, he embodied the pack's fierce pride, his voice a thunderous roar that silenced the howls of his kin. "My son, my blood, has betrayed us," he bellowed, his fists clenched, veins bulging like rivers of fire. "He harbors a Vael, a deceiver whose magic mocks our bond with the earth. Ronan, you will abandon this abomination or you will be cast out. No longer my heir, no longer Lycan." The pack erupted in a cacophony of howls, some in support, others in dissent, the air thick with division. Thorn's edict was clear. Ronan must forsake Anya or face exile, a fate tantamount to death in the wilds, where a lone Lycan was prey to both beast and man. The weight of these decrees bore down on Anya and Ronan as they fled, their pursuers' presence a constant shadow. One dusk, as the twin moons began their ascent, casting a dual glow that painted the forest in eerie hues, the first clash came. Vael trackers, their wards glowing like miniature constellations, emerged from the mist, their staves crackling with celestial energy. "Anya, traitor to the Vael," their leader shouted, a woman with eyes like polished sapphire, her voice sharp with betrayal. Before Anya could respond, a bolt of light seared the air, narrowly missing her as Ronan shoved her behind a boulder, his body shielding hers. His form shifted in an instant, midnight fur erupting as he roared, a sound that shook the leaves from their branches. The trackers advanced, their wards tightening like a net, but Anya, summoning her Vael magic, countered with a burst of illusory mist, cloaking them in shadows that confused their foes. No sooner had the Vael retreated than Lycan hunters burst from the undergrowth, led by Garrick, Ronan's cousin, whose loyalty to Thorn burned fiercer than his kinship. "You shame us, Ronan," he snarled, his wolf form a lean, gray shadow, claws gleaming as he lunged. The clash was brutal, fur and blood flying as Ronan met him head-on, their bodies colliding in a whirlwind of fangs and muscle. Anya, her heart pounding, felt the curse stir, but she fought it, knowing a shift now would leave her vulnerable. Instead, she wove another spell, a flash of light that blinded the hunters, giving Ronan the edge to drive them back, wounded but alive, their howls of frustration echoing into the night.
Panting, bloodied, and battered, Anya and Ronan pressed on, their bond now a lifeline in the face of relentless pursuit. Each skirmish deepened their reliance on one another. Ronan's strength shielding her from physical threats, Anya's magic cloaking them from arcane detection. Yet the cost was heavy. Hunger gnawed at their bellies, their provisions long depleted, forcing them to forage for bitter roots and small game. Exhaustion etched lines into their faces, and the cold nights, when they huddled beneath shared cloaks, were their only respite. In these moments, their closeness kindled a forbidden flame, their touches lingering longer, their gazes heavy with unspoken desire. "We cannot run forever," Anya whispered one night, her voice soft against the crackle of a small fire they dared to light. Ronan's hand found hers, his grip firm yet gentle. "We run until we find a way to end this," he replied, his amber eyes burning with resolve. "Together."
Their status as fugitives was cemented, hunted by both Vael and Lycan, their worlds united only in their condemnation. The High Council's trackers grew bolder, their wards tightening, while Thorn's hunters, driven by zeal, left trails of blood and broken earth. Anya and Ronan, bound by a love that defied their bloodlines, became shadows in the wilds, their every step a testament to their refusal to yield. The twin moons watched, their light a constant reminder of the prophecy yet to be discovered, a promise that their union might yet forge a path through the gathering storm toward a destiny that could reshape Lyra itself.
In the wild heart of Lyra, where the twin moons cast their silver and gold light upon the untamed expanse of Eldoria, a storm brewed, not of wind or rain, but of ancient hatreds and unyielding traditions that threatened to tear asunder the fragile bond between Anya and Ronan. The forest, once a sanctuary for their unlikely alliance, now pulsed with the menace of pursuit, its shadows alive with the whispers of trackers and hunters closing in. The air was thick with the scent of pine, earth, and the faint tang of fear, as if the land itself sensed the escalating conflict that would test the resolve of two souls bound by forbidden love. The bonfires of the Silverfang Pack's camp still flickered in the distance, their light a fading memory as Anya and Ronan fled deeper into the wilderness, their steps driven by desperation and a shared defiance against the worlds that sought to tear them apart. Anya, now reverted to her Vael form, moved with a grace tempered by exhaustion, her midnight silk hair tangled with leaves and thorns, her storm-tossed eyes shadowed with fatigue, yet burning with a new-found resolve. The revelation of her true nature had shattered the illusion of safety within the Lycan camp, and the weight of her cursed bloodline, a union of Vael and Lycan ancestry, pressed upon her like a mantle of iron. Each step was a rebellion against the fear that had once defined her, her heart now a crucible where courage was forged from the ashes of isolation. Her tattered robes, once a symbol of Silverwood's elegance, clung to her sweat-dampened skin, their pale fabric stained with the earth of Eldoria. Yet, despite the physical toll, she felt the stirrings of purpose, a conviction that her curse was not a mark of shame, but a bridge to a future unimagined. Ronan, the formidable Lycan leader, strode beside her, his scarred frame radiating a warrior's strength even as his amber eyes betrayed a storm of inner conflict. His midnight black hair, tied back in a warrior's braid, glistened with sweat, and his broad shoulders bore the weight of their flight, both literal and metaphorical. Duty had been his lodestar, a creed etched into his bones by years of leading the Silverfang Pack, enforcing codes that branded the Vael as deceivers and threats to the natural order. Yet Anya's presence, her vulnerability, her courage, the undeniable pull of her divided bloodline, had fractured that duty, revealing a path where love and loyalty could coexist. He scanned the forest with a predator's vigilance, his senses attuned to every snap of twig or rustle of leaves, his hand never straying far from the obsidian dagger at his belt. Each glance at Anya, her luminous form a stark contrast to the wilds, deepened the forbidden attraction that burned within him, a flame that threatened to consume the rigid boundaries of his upbringing. Their flight was a desperate dance through Eldoria's labyrinth, the terrain a relentless adversary. Jagged ravines cut through the earth, their depths echoing with the roar of subterranean rivers that churned like the anger of Lyra's primal spirits. Thorny brambles clawed at their limbs, drawing beads of blood that mingled with the dirt, while ancient trees loomed like sentinels, their branches creaking with a cadence that seemed to mock their plight. Anya, her Vael's senses attuned to the subtle magics of the land, wove fleeting illusions from the forest's mists, her hands glowing faintly as she bent light and shadow to obscure their trail. Ronan, his Lycan instincts sharp as a blade, scented the air for pursuers, his form partially shifting, claws extended, ears pricked, to navigate hidden paths veiled by undergrowth. Their collaboration was seamless, a testament to the trust forged in the camp, yet the weight of their pursuers pressed ever closer, a noose tightening around their fragile alliance. Word of their bond had spread like wildfire across Lyra, igniting fury in the crystalline halls of Silverwood and the rugged glens of the Lycan packs. In Silverwood, the Vael High Council convened in their grand chamber, its spires humming with arcane energy, their faces etched with righteous indignation. Anya, once a daughter of their celestial lineage, was now branded a traitor, her cursed bloodline a blight upon their purity. The High Archon, a severe figure cloaked in robes of starlit silver, slammed a gavel of crystal upon the dais, his voice resonating like a tolling bell. Anya of Silverwood has consorted with beasts, defiling our sacred heritage, he declared, his eyes cold as the void. Her blood, tainted by the savage, must be purged. Trackers, bring her to judgment. Arcane wards flared to life, their shimmering nets dispatched with Vael hunters, lithe figures armed with staves of light, their movements graceful yet lethal, fanning out into Eldoria with relentless precision. In the Lycan camps, the reaction was no less vehement. Alpha Thorn, Ronan's father, stood before the assembled Silverfang Pack, his grizzled form towering beneath the open sky, his eyes blazing with ancestral wrath. A warrior of unyielding tradition, he embodied the pack's fierce pride, his voice a thunderous roar that silenced the howls of his kin. "My son, my blood, has betrayed us," he bellowed, his fists clenched, veins bulging like rivers of fire. "He harbors a Vael, a deceiver, whose magic mocks our bond with the earth. Ronan, you will abandon this abomination, or you will be cast out. No longer my heir, no longer Lycan." The pack erupted in a cacophony of howls, some in support, others in dissent, the air thick with division. Thorn's edict was clear. Ronan must forsake Anya, or face exile, a fate tantamount to death in the wilds, where a lone Lycan was prey to both beast and man. The weight of these decrees bore down on Anya and Ronan as they fled, their pursuers' presence a constant shadow. One dusk, as the twin moons began their ascent, casting a dual glow that painted the forest in eerie hues, the first clash came. Vael trackers, their wards glowing like miniature constellations, emerged from the mist, their staves crackling with celestial energy. "Anya, traitor to the Vael," their leader shouted, a woman with eyes like polished sapphire, her voice sharp with betrayal. Before Anya could respond, a bolt of light seared the air, narrowly missing her as Ronan shoved her behind a boulder, his body shielding hers. His form shifted in an instant, midnight fur erupting as he roared, a sound that shook the leaves from their branches. The trackers advanced, their wards tightening like a net, but Anya, summoning her Vael magic, countered with a burst of illusory mist, cloaking them in shadows that confused their foes. No sooner had the Vael retreated than Lycan hunters burst from the undergrowth, led by Goric, Ronan's cousin, whose loyalty to Thorn burned fiercer than his kinship. "You shame us, Ronan," he snarled, his wolf form a lean gray shadow, claws gleaming as he lunged. The clash was brutal, fur and blood flying as Ronan met him head-on, their bodies colliding in a whirlwind of fangs and muscle. Anya, her heart pounding, felt the curse stir, but she fought it, knowing a shift now would leave her vulnerable. Instead, she wove another spell, a flash of light that blinded the hunters, giving Ronan the edge to drive them back, wounded but alive, their howls of frustration echoing into the night. Panting, bloodied, and battered, Anya and Ronan pressed on, their bond now a lifeline in the face of relentless pursuit. Each skirmish deepened their reliance on one another, Ronan's strength shielding her from physical threats, Anya's magic cloaking them from arcane detection. Yet the cost was heavy. Hunger gnawed at their bellies, their provisions long depleted.
forcing them to forage for bitter roots and small game. Exhaustion etched lines into their faces, and the cold nights, when they huddled beneath shared cloaks, were their only respite. In these moments, their closeness kindled a forbidden flame, their touches lingering longer, their gazes heavy with unspoken desire. "We cannot run forever," Anya whispered one night, her voice soft against the crackle of a small fire they dared to light. Ronan's hand found hers, his grip firm yet gentle. "We run until we find a way to end this, together." Their status as fugitives was cemented, hunted by both Vael and Lycan, their worlds united only in their condemnation. The High Council's trackers grew bolder, their wards tightening, while Thorn's hunters, driven by zeal, left trails of blood and broken earth. Anya and Ronan, bound by a love that defied their bloodlines, became shadows in the wilds, their every step a testament to their refusal to yield. The twin moons watched, their light a constant reminder of the prophecy yet to be discovered, a promise that their union might yet forge a path through the gathering storm, toward a destiny that could reshape Lyra itself.
In the divided realm of Lyra, where the twin moons cast their silver and gold light upon a land scarred by ancient enmities, Anya and Ronan emerged from the hidden sanctuary, their hearts ablaze with the prophecy's truth, and their bond forged in the fires of adversity. The forest of Eldoria, once a crucible of peril, now seemed to part before them, its gnarled oaks and thorny brambles bowing as if in reverence to the destiny they carried. The air was thick with the scent of pine and the faint hum of latent magic, the runes of the sanctuary still pulsing in their minds like a sacred heartbeat. Armed with the ancient prophecy that a union of divided blood would mend the schism between Vael and Lycan, they resolved to confront their peoples, to challenge the hatreds that had torn Lyra asunder. The twin moons, aligned in rare harmony, bathed their path in a dual glow, as if blessing their return. Yet the weights of their mission pressed upon them like a gathering storm, for they knew the old guard would resist with all their might. Anya, her Vael grace now tempered by the wild strength of her werewolf curse, walked with a newfound authority, her midnight silked hair flowing like a banner of defiance, her storm-tossed eyes alight with courage. The prophecy had transformed her journey from one of fear and isolation to one of leadership, her cursed bloodline no longer a mark of shame but a key to peace. Her tattered robes, stained with the earth of Eldoria, clung to her luminous form, each tear a testament to her trials. The amulet from the sanctuary, a crystal pendant infused with Lycan earth essence, hung at her throat, its warmth a reminder of her dual nature and the power she now embraced. Yet, as they neared Silverwood, her heart trembled with the weight of facing her kin, the Vael High Council, whose crystalline spires loomed in her memory as bastions of unyielding purity. Ronan, the formidable Lycan leader, strode beside her, his scarred frame radiating a warrior's resolve, his amber eyes burning with a purpose that transcended his former duty. His midnight black hair, tied in a warrior's braid, glistened with the dew of the morning, and the obsidian talisman from the sanctuary, laced with Vael's star magic, rested against his chest, enhancing his instincts with foresight. Once bound by the Silverfang Pack's rigid codes, he had evolved from a warrior of division to a symbol of peace, his love for Anya the forge that tempered his heart. Yet the prospect of facing his father, Alpha Thorn, and the pack he had led filled him with a quiet dread, not of battle, but of the fracture he knew his choices would cause. His hand brushed Anya's as they walked, a silent vow to stand together no matter the cost. Their journey back was a solemn march, the forest giving way to the verdant valleys of Silverwood and the rugged glens of the Lycan territories. They carried the prophecy's words, etched upon their souls. A union of divided blood would end the war, or Lyra would crumble into eternal night. The starlit map from the sanctuary guided them, its shimmering paths warding off pursuers,
while their amulets pulsed with protective magic, shielding them from arcane and primal threats. Yet no magic could shield them from the uproar awaiting, for their return was a spark poised to ignite a conflagration of division and hope.
First, they approached Silverwood, its crystalline spires rising like shards of starlight against the dawn sky, their surfaces humming with celestial energy. The Vael High Council convened in their grand chamber, a vast hall of translucent crystal, where light refracted into rainbows, illuminating the stern faces of the elders. The High Archon, clad in robes of starlit silver, stood upon the dais, his eyes like polished obsidian, cold and unyielding. Anya stepped forward, her presence a stark contrast to the polished elegance around her, her robes tattered, her hair wild, yet her voice steady as she unveiled the prophecy. "In the era of divided blood," she recited, her lyrical cadence echoing through the chamber, "a union of Vael and Lycan shall mend the schism. I, cursed with both bloods, am the harbinger, and with Ronan, the guardian, we bring the promise of peace." The chamber erupted in chaos. Elders rose, their voices a cacophony of outrage, their arcane staves glowing with barely restrained power. "Heresy!" cried the High Archon, his gavel slamming with a sound like cracking ice. "You defile our purity with this beastly taint. The prophecy is a lie, a deception to weaken us." Younger Vael, those who had known Anya as kin, wavered, their eyes flickering with doubt, but the old guard stood firm, their faces twisted with prejudice. Arcane wards flared, threatening to bind her, but Anya's amulet pulsed, deflecting the magic with a burst of earthy light. She stood unwavering, her storm-tossed eyes meeting each accusing gaze, her courage a beacon that stirred whispers of possibility among the younger council members, though the elders' refusal cast a shadow over hope. Leaving Silverwood's turmoil, Anya and Ronan turned to the Lycan glens, where the Silverfang Pack gathered under the open sky, their bonfires roaring like the hearts of their warriors. Alpha Thorn stood at the center, his grizzled form towering, his eyes blazing with ancestral wrath. The pack, a sea of fur and muscle, parted as Ronan approached, Anya at his side, their hands clasped in defiance. His voice, a resonant growl, carried the prophecy's weight. "The silver-furred harbinger and the midnight guardian shall forge the bridge. Our love, born of divided blood, will end the war that devours our kin." He held aloft the obsidian talisman, its starlit glow a stark contrast to the firelight, a symbol of their united purpose. The glens erupted in division. Warriors howled in fury, their claws bared, while elders shook their heads, muttering of betrayal. Thorn's roar silenced them all, his voice a thunderclap. "You spit on our blood, my son, this Vael witch corrupts you with her lies. Abandon her, or be cast out forever." Some pack members, loyal to Ronan's leadership, hesitated, their eyes flickering with loyalty to their former leader, but others, inflamed by Thorn's zeal, lunged forward, only to be halted by Ronan's commanding presence. His talisman flared, its magic calming the air, yet the old guard's refusal was unyielding, their howls a promise of conflict to come. The twin moons watched, their light bathing the scenes in a dual glow that seemed to plead for unity. Yet the old-minded of both Vael and Lycan stood as barriers, their prejudices as a wall against the prophecy's truth. Anya and Ronan, standing amidst the uproar, felt the weight of their mission deepen. Her journey from fear to leadership was now a clarion call, her voice rising above the chaos to rally those who dared hope. Ronan, his duty transformed into a vision of peace, stood as her shield, his presence a testament to their shared resolve. The division they sparked was a necessary fracture, a prelude to the final confrontation that would determine Lyra's fate. As they retreated from the glens, their hands still clasped, the stage was set for a battle not of blood,
but of belief, where their love would face its ultimate test under the moon's eternal gaze.
In the heart of Lyra, where the twin moons, one silver, one gold, reached their zenith, casting a radiant dual glow across a land scarred by centuries of enmity, the final act of Anya and Ronan saga unfolded in a vast clearing where the borders of Eldoria met the crystalline valleys of Silverwood. The air was electric with anticipation, heavy with the sense of pine, earth, and the metallic tang of impending conflict, as if Lyra itself held its breath for the reckoning to come. The clearing, a natural amphitheater ringed by ancient oaks and shimmering spires, pulsed with the energy of a world on the brink of transformation. Here, under the moon's unyielding gaze, the old guard of Vael and Lycan converged, their prejudices a wall against the prophecy that Anya and Ronan bore, a prophecy foretelling a union of divided blood as the key to ending the eternal war. This was no mere battleground. It was a crucible where love and unity would face their ultimate test, a stage for a symbolic display that would reshape Lyra's destiny. Anya, her veil grace now fused with the wild strength of her werewolf curse, stood at the center of the clearing, her midnight silk hair flowing like a banner of defiance, her storm-tossed eyes alight with the courage of a leader forged in fire. Her tattered robes, stained with the earth of Eldoria, clung to her luminous form, each tear a testament to her journey from isolation to purpose. The crystal pendant from the sanctuary hung at her throat, its Lycan earth essence pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat, a reminder of her dual nature as the silver-furred harbinger. Fear, once her constant companion, had been alchemized into resolve. She was no longer the outcast fleeing Silverwood's judgment, but a beacon of hope, ready to lead her people into a new era. Ronan, the formidable Lycan leader, stood beside her, his scarred frame radiating a warrior's strength tempered by a vision of peace. His midnight black hair, tied in a warrior's braid, glistened with the dew of the night, and his amber eyes burned with a resolution that transcended his former duty. The obsidian talisman, laced with Vael star magic, rested against his chest, its glow enhancing his instincts with foresight. Once bound by the Silverfang Pack's rigid codes, he had become a symbol of unity, his love for Anya the forge that reshaped his heart. His hand rested lightly on the obsidian dagger at his belt, not as a weapon of war, but as a reminder of the battles he had fought to stand here united with the woman who had changed his world. The clearing was a cauldron of tension as the old-minded converged, Vael elders, their arcane staffs glowing with starlit fury, and Lycan traditionalists, their claws bared in feral defiance. The high archon of the Vael, his robes of starlit silver billowing, led his contingent, his obsidian eyes cold with righteous indignation. "You defile our purity," he thundered, his voice echoing like a tolling bell, his staff crackling with energy. Across the clearing, Alpha Thorn, Ronan's father, stood at the head of the Lycan warriors, his grizzled form towering, his eyes blazing with ancestral wrath. "You betray our blood," he roared, his voice a thunderclap that shook the trees. The air crackled with their combined fury, wards and howls intertwining in a cacophony that threatened to drown the prophecy's promise. Anya and Ronan, undaunted, stepped forward as one, their hands clasped, their amulets glowing in harmony. "We are the bridge," Anya declared, her lyrical voice rising above the chaos, resonant with the authority of her newfound leadership. "The prophecy speaks of divided blood uniting to end this war. We stand as proof." Ronan's growl joined her, his tone a resonant counterpoint. "Our love defies your hatreds. Under the twin moons, we fight not for blood, but for peace." Their words, amplified by the sanctuary's magic, carried a weight that silenced the crowd, stirring doubt among the younger Vael and Lycans who had begun to question the old ways. The battle erupted, not as a slaughter, but as a symbolic dance of unity. Anya, summoning her curse,
shifted into her silver-furred wolf form, the transformation swift and controlled, her bones cracking with a now familiar ache, her pelt shimmering like a cascade of starlight. Ronan followed, his midnight black wolf form a towering shadow, his movements fluid and precise. Together they faced the old guard, Vael elders hurling bolts of celestial light, Lycan warriors lunging with claws and fangs. Yet their fight was one of restraint, a display of harmony rather than destruction. Anya wove through the fray, her agility dodging arcane blasts, her jaws snapping to disarm rather than kill, her amulet deflecting wards with bursts of earthy light. Ronan, his strength a bulwark, parried claws and deflected blows, his talisman flaring to calm the air, his roars a call for unity rather than dominance. The twin moons reached their peak, their light intensifying until the clearing glowed as if bathed in the radiance of creation itself. The prophecy's power manifested, a surge of ethereal energy enveloping Anya and Ronan, their forms glowing with a halo of silver and gold. Visions flashed across the minds of all present, images of Vael and Lycan standing together, sharing knowledge under a unified sky, their enmity dissolved into harmony. The old guard faltered, their staves lowering, their claws retracting, as the visions pierced their prejudices. The High Archon's face softened, his eyes flickering with doubt, while Thorn's roar faded to a reluctant growl, his loyalty to his son warring with his tradition. Victory came not through bloodshed, but through revelation. The old-minded, their convictions crumbling, yielded to the undeniable truth of the prophecy. As dawn broke, the twin moons yielding to the sun's golden embrace, Anya and Ronan stood transformed, leaders of a new era. They shifted back to human form, hand in hand, their amulets still glowing as symbols of their union. The Vael and Lycans, once eternal foes, began to converge, tentative bonds forming as younger members shared glances of hope. Anya, her voice steady, spoke of a future where knowledge and strength intertwined, her leadership a beacon for reconciliation. Ronan, his presence commanding, vowed to guide his people toward peace, his warrior's heart now a forge for unity. Under the fading light of the twin moons, the clearing became a symbol of Lyra's new dawn. The spires of Silverwood and the glens of the Lycans stood not as fortresses of division, but as pillars of a unified world. Anya and Ronan, their love the fulcrum of change, gazed upon their peoples, their hands clasped as a promise of peace. The air hummed with possibility, the forest whispering of a future where Vael and Lycan walked together, their bloodlines no longer a curse, but a strength. As the sun rose, bathing Lyra in golden light, the prophecy was fulfilled, heralding a new era under the eternal gaze of the twin moons.